I got interested in this whole business about the crazy voting habits in Chicago. I'm 89 years old and I was born in Chicago, and we know all the jokes about the thing, about the guy that whose father voted Republican all of his life, living in Chicago, and he died, and after that he voted straight Democrat. So there's a lot of jokes like that, and they're not really funny. But in the election in 2010, I was contacted by Craig Burkhart, who's a Washington attorney, used to be the attorney for the Republican Party in Illinois. And he put me onto the fact that the party had failed to set up any kind of control to get people to monitor the election in Chicago. So he came in and did pro bono and set up a thing, and I promised that I'd provide $100,000 for him to educate attorneys and other people. I actually did $74,000 on that particular caper, and he put 200 people into the nursing homes of Cook County, which it was a terrible thing. Those old people didn't know how to vote anymore. But at any rate, that got me very interested in it, and I encountered Sharon Meroni. And I will tell you, I have found from my contact with her, she's a very smart woman, and she's a very determined woman. And she, through whether it's feminine wiles or persistence or whatever, she has wiggled into the internal halls of the people that run the election system in Cook County and in Chicago. And she's done a remarkable job. I've helped her with some funding, but this thing today is about the work that Sharon Meroni did. She's got a gentleman here from the Argonne Laboratories that has his own story about the federal agency that's interested. But for now, let's get the whole story from Sharon Meroni. Come up here, if you would.
Thank you, Jack.
As you can tell, I've got a ton of respect for this woman.
Wow, I'm fortunate for that. Thank you. And really, I have to say I have a lot of respect for Jack. I call him the pioneer of ballot integrity in Illinois because it's his foresight and vision that has helped to guide our project from the beginning to today. And, you know, in so many ways you can't imagine. I think his business experience has really helped us to move forward. What Defend the Vote is we empower citizens to protect elections. The focus of our program is to evaluate election environments and to improve them as opposed to trying to go out necessarily and catch a crook in action. Our first program, which Jack referenced, that began in 2010, had some phenomenal results because we put poll watchers into not only nursing homes but also into the early voting locations. And we discovered a couple of things. Number one, that Illinois or Chicago was using non-citizens to run some of our early voting locations. And we also discovered that the employment verification forms for many of these employees, actually 75% of them, were not properly filled out. When we brought these issues forward, Chicago made dramatic changes to their early voting procedures, and now fortunately we always have starting in March, by the way, the election we just had, there's always a Republican and a Democrat election judge, and all employees working in early voting from this point forward have to be registered voters, which of course would make them U.S. citizens. So that little bit of work that we did brought really profound changes without a lot of noise. And what continued to happen is we observed that there were other vulnerabilities in irregularities, and I didn't really know how to judge the system. So with just 4 or 5 days notice, I went to Jack and said, Jack, can we do a surprise audit on Chicago's election systems? And believe it or not, he said yes. And some of the people that are here actually helped us. And what we did is we sent out poll watchers to 239 precincts in Chicago only, and we judged them on 13 different measures related to security, such as were the ballot boxes sealed, Were the memory devices sealed? Were the ballots sealed? And we found 139 instances that they failed to seal the ballot boxes, which was a pretty profound, shock for us to find such a high ratio. We found a variety of other issues as well, and wrote a report which was peer-reviewed and published by Argonne National Laboratories. They have a journal, and it's called the Journal of Physical Security. And what they ended up finding essentially is, while our report proved that in 90% of these cases, the precincts missed at least one, if not more, of the security measures, what Argonne found, because they're the experts in this matter, was that the security measures in place failed holistically to protect the ballot. And so that report also brought profound changes. Chicago altered how they ship their equipment. They alter all their seal procedures and how they document them as well. And they changed the training to assure that from this point forward, the judges would get those ballot boxes, locked up there. But note, we made all these changes without finding a single piece of fraud, because security in an environment is about establishing a security culture, and that's where our focus is. And after we had that success with Chicago, we've been working on a variety of other projects, and one of the things that I did in March was assessed the elections for Cook County, and we found some pretty shocking results. Number one, the law very clearly states that Cook County has to put their ballots into a bag. All the ballots are supposed to be put in a bag after they're counted, and they're supposed to be wrapped this way and that way, sorry about that, with tape, and signed and sealed by the election judges. What Cook County, Suburban Cook County, does is they just put the ballots directly into the carrying case without sealing them separately. And that would be a huge security problem that we would like to correct before the upcoming election. And one of the ways that Defend the Vote thought that we could best do that is to get the real professionals, such as Argonne National Laboratories, which truly is the gold standard on security, anywhere in the country, and ask them to assess and evaluate what's going on in the election systems of both Chicago and Cook, and eventually our program will extend nationally as well. And before I introduce Roger, I just want to add that besides this particular audit program, we are also going to have a full audit of the absentee process in Chicago and Cook County as well, and we're really excited about that. And as we get through this, we'll have short-term and long-term recommendations, and part of our goal would be to increase the security culture at all locations as much as possible before November, but also to set in motion changes for our upcoming elections. And with that, Dr. Johnston, I'd like to introduce you. Dr. Roger Johnston is the manager of the Vulnerability Assessment Team at Argonne National Laboratories.
Good afternoon. As was mentioned, I'm Roger Johnston with the Vulnerability Assessment Team at Argonne National Laboratory. Argonne is a large multidisciplinary research and development laboratory located 25 miles southwest of Chicago. We do quite a range of different types of research and development, as well as technical assistance to the government and also private companies, and as in this case, NGOs. I've been with the Vulnerability Assessment Team for a couple decades, and we've looked at the security of well over 1,000 different security devices, systems, and programs in those 2 decades. And in recent years, we've become quite interested in issues of election security. My personal view is that in the country as a whole, we don't really do a very good job with election security. And the lessons of our work, and I think the lessons of almost any vulnerability assessment team, is often just making some small changes can lead to dramatically improved security. So our hope is we can be able to make some recommendations to the city of Chicago and to Cook County that would be hopefully relatively painless, relatively inexpensive, but might substantially improve overall election security.
Just on behalf of the county, we've been working with Defend the Vote on many different aspects of the election integrity program. We've named Sharon Meroni as our chairman of our program, and we've identified all the election judges within the county and within the city that we are going to be placing as Republican election judges. On some of the initial review that we've had in previous election, we have found that as far as people that have signed up to be a Republican election judge, anywhere between 20 to 30% of them have had a significant amount of Democratic voting record. And could be considered as a Democrat. So we've gone through it and we've identified these individuals that have been registered as Republicans, and we've removed them from our election judge ballot group. We have gone through and we've started making phone calls to Republicans countywide to start establishing more election judges to make sure that the ballot integrity program that we've in place is being done in a fair manner and is being equally responsible between the Republican and Democratic parties and all the different precincts throughout the county without the city. So that has been the first part. The second part too is that we are going through and we are identifying to make sure that the people are being placed by our committeemen in each of the different wards in each of the townships in the correct areas, and they're not being moved to different groups. For example, we found in certain areas that we've assigned a precinct captain or pardon me, a election judge to a certain precinct, and they've been moved by the county or by the city organization. So we are going through and rechecking to make sure that they are there. We've also made a strong progress in developing poll watchers. So not only are we having our election judges in each of the precincts, but we are sending poll watchers to all the nursing homes, to the jails, and to all of the different precincts to make sure that everything is being done correctly, everything is being seen by more than one set of eyes. A lot of people don't know that in certain areas of Cook County, when you are arrested and you are awaiting trial, you are still have the ability to vote. So absentee ballots will be brought to that area. Absentee ballots are brought to nursing homes. Nobody is reviewing these thoroughly to see that they are being handled properly, that are being secured and being not influenced in any general direction. So these are the kinds of things that we believe are going to make a strong impact on the voter integrity and will have a strong impact on the Republican voter turnout, because there will be a less amount of fraud in the county. So I want to thank Argonne Labs and of course Sharon and Jack for putting this program together as a joint project within the Cook County Republican Party.
Not only Cook County, but that includes the City of Chicago.
That's right. I'm in charge of Cook County as well as all the City of Chicago. We've been working again with the City Chairman Adam Robinson with his help and all of his ward committeemen as well as the 30 township committeemen to make this county-wide access to, and again, the first time that I've ever been familiar with it, making sure that there is ballot integrity within the county. Obviously, Cook County has been a tremendously Democrat area, and we believe that we can shave 3 to 4% off of the lead that the Democrats have versus Republicans by just establishing true election integrity.
Yeah, the funny thing about election integrity is, the question is who steals the vote, and the answer is the vote is stolen at the point of access by whoever is so motivated to do so. In some countries where they use colored ink to tell who voted, what we've learned is that they'll go and dilute that ink so that the people can vote twice. And so technology doesn't matter. If you can have access and you are motivated, then that's where the vote is stolen. Where we're more vulnerable as a society is in the electronic vote, because it happens so quickly that all of the measures and the security protocols have not been clearly established. Now, we did get a letter back from Chicago and Cook County as far as their cooperation level with us on this program, and at this point they have not agreed to give us the actual voting machines that we can run our own testing and protocols on, so we're negotiating for that. They were concerned about some proprietary issues as far as the software is concerned, because legally I bet they were, that the rights are owned by Dominion Voting. But you see, that's a profound issue that we have to really think about, that some corporation has the right to have information about our voting systems that we're not allowed to have, and whether or not, at what point that becomes a block to having a strong culture of security at the voting place, but also throughout the whole voting process. There are many places where there is untested software that's running our voting machines right now. And as we get through this process, we will also address those issues, both from a perspective of security as well as a perspective of whether or not the code is secure. So we have a whole bunch of things to do, and we're working on it in as many ways as we can.